Okay, so doors are epoxy primered in preparation for paint after all the body work and etc. was done. And really like the black epoxy primer because when I was all done and everything came out nice, I found one very shallow ding. But it would have been visible with the paint after it was painted. So, yeah, and I started 600 little scuffing up here for paint to get some trash out and stuff, and just to see what it's like. I'm not even remotely done. I just okay. So I've been outdoor grinding, sanding down to bare metal because the less dust I have in the garage, the better. Been trying to clean that out. As you can see, it's a good thing you take it down because then you find the Bondo that people did before, and not a very good job at that. It's kind of bumpy. The reddish stuff you see on here, that is not rust. That is some kind of coating they used that was like a rust inhibitor. It comes off with acetone and grinding, which when I took the primer off, but oh my gosh, nasty stuff. You know, the thing is, I was feeling this, and I still have to grind these out. I'm not leaving them in there, the Bondo. But you can tell the difference between a Bondo guy and a panel beater is because I'm going to try and beat that from the inside. There's definitely access there. And not have to use, I mean, it's pretty thick with Bondo. Same thing with here. It's all bumpy here, but it's not just a skim coat. And that's all I really want is the most minimal. Still have to do this side. I did the rear sail and the other side of the roof, so maybe I'm a third of the way done. Anyway, like I said, gonna be doing this, the body work outside because I want as little dust as possible. I've been cleaning up the garage, getting this cleaned out, getting the doors in there, and yeah, it'll get all new plastic and make it like a booth. But I'll bring the car in at night because if I don't, I'll get flash rust. I'm gonna use the fast etch on the bare metal, but I gotta be bare metal first. So, all right, that's it. Okay, a little out of breath, lots of stuff going on. Well, I had an opportunity. I was gonna have to be doing some epoxy priming. I said, well, let me unwrap the valances and stone guards and all the things that were new parts and get them sanded down so that they can get epoxy primered and make sure they were smooth. You can see where the better metal edges are because, you know, when I sanded it down, I got it down to 320. Yeah, and they're ready. But the major task, what I'm trying to do is get the entire quarters, back, roof, everything into bare metal. Let me get a better angle because of the sun here. But as you can see, you know, there was Bondo behind it and everything, and I got to dig that out and go over to do it my way. The roof is done, the sides. I'll do the back by hand. Then we got this side, same thing. So I'm almost there into the bare metal space. The jambs are in good shape, and I'm going to do them by hand and then epoxy over them. I'm not going to take them down to bare metal. No need to. If I saw anything that gave me pause, I would. And the whole car, anything that's bare metal, was covered in Eastwood's fast etch, so there's no possibility of any flash rust or anything like that happening. So yeah, the thing is coming along. You can see the dash is all put together. I've got blue LEDs in there. It's kind of cool. You know, this bothers me here. I'm going to see if I can get that out from the inside, unless it's just something shallow. I haven't dug it out yet to see. You know, this may be their version of a skim coat, but I won't know till I dig it out. Same thing with those. I have accessibility to those, so we'll see. Okay, that's it. All right, in all of my videos, I talk about paying attention to detail. So I've taken the rear window out, and I have removed all of the gunk sealant and everything manually, and then using lacquer thinner. And you can see how the bottom section here had some rust, but it's not all the way through. It's nasty, but it's not all the way through. And that must have been a corner where the stuff sat. You can see it in the other side. So paying attention to detail. This is going to get wired out, and then I'll use Eastwood's rust converter on this and rust encapsulator before I paint it. Yeah, it's, you know, it's not a piece of metal you would replace, but you definitely want to address. Fortunately, I caught it in time, and I'll get in there too. And I'll show a video of what it looks like after I'm done cleaning it up. All right, take care. Okay, as you can see, the car is in Bondo, and I've knocked it down with DA sander, re-hit some lows. It still has to be, you know, hand sanded better, but you can see I've got the guide coat. This stuff is very important to make sure you have ultra smooth panels. You know, I'll be doing it on every one of these. This is the grudgery part of the restore, but you got to do it if you want straight panels. I mean, you know, it's fairly straight in this section here, but then here, you know, there's some stuff that has to be done. There's an area that where I haven't knocked it down yet, and the thing is, like 90% of this comes off. It's just amazing how much dust comes off of this. But yeah, I'm concentrating on the roof here because I had knocked it all down, found my lows, re-skim coated the top, and now it's going to get hand sanded. No DA sander for this. Okay, just the upper. Okay, there's one half of the roof done, and found my lows where the dark patches, not the clear metal, but the dark patches, like these. And that's a low. Down in here near the front, right there. Yeah, and I'll skim over where the pits have been filled in. But yeah, I got a few little spots, but you know, it's a big area, so onward and upward. Just want to share a quick video about aftermarket parts. This is the it goes below the grill guard. This is the rear valance, and this is before I've done anything to them. This is the way they come. And if you think you're just going to scuff them and put some epoxy primer or high build primer on them and do them up, that's not the case. You can do that with the back, but as you'll see, they have, you know, scratches, imperfections, different things. And remember something, paint is not a filler, okay? Neither is primer. Primer will fill in scratches for, you know, sanding scratches, but it's not made to be like a filler. So this is a before, and here's some that I've worked. This is the front valance, and you can see, you know, it doesn't take heavy body putty, just glazing putty, but you have to go over those areas and then sand them. As you can see, you know, every one of these was some form of imperfection or scratch or whatever, and these have been sanded smooth. And when you sand, you also want to make sure that your transitions are good, that you don't feel, you know, your hand will tell you, is there a flat feel and no transition basically, or do you feel an edge? You know, I was going over this one again and saying, okay, oh, I feel a little edge right there. And what about here? No, that's actually pretty good. You know, so you want to look at that, you want to feel, because that's going to show up. Right there would show up. So, you know, you want to go over things and use your hand. You know, you're going to degrease anyway. How about here? Nope, that feels really good. What about these little dots that might have been, oh, that one needs to be sanded. That needs to be sanded. You know, I'm almost there, but not 100%. And you want the smoothest of transitions, because as I say, primer is not made to be a shaper, okay? And yeah, so it's a lot of work. And like I say, the backside is a different story. The backside you can scuff because you're going to primer it, paint it, etc., clear coat it, and nobody's ever going to see it. It's just to protect the metal. But the front, yeah, you certainly need to do that. And there's a lot of surface area here, believe me, but you can see, like I say, the imperfections, they come shipped, they get bounced around. Sometimes the edges get bent and you might have to bend an edge back into position. So yeah, that's it. Thanks. All right, I want to show you something. These areas that I've sanded down like this, rather than just scuffing. Rust is cancer, and these were exposed pieces of metal on the thing. Maybe they got scratched or whatever, but if I had left them there and just painted over them, like cancer, they're just going to grow. Especially like over here, you can see there's a little bit of pitting and everything. Well, it doesn't make sense, and I have to finish here. Doesn't make sense to let that just grow. So I will sand it down and then used a fast etch on it so that it stops it dead in its tracks. And then when I do coat over it, I don't have anything to worry about. Oh. Okay, so this is 2 coats of black epoxy primer on the valances and the stone guard and all that other good happy crap. Yeah, I had, you know, fixed things up. The nice thing is the black primer kind of brings some stuff out to see. But on this side, on the front side, I'm also going to use high build to make sure everything's straight. And if I need any kind of body putty, some of what you're seeing is shadows from the existing body putty. It's totally smooth, but you know, we'll make sure it's 100% before paint. And yeah, but you know, I learned a little trick on applying epoxy primer, you know, for a sealer. Don't use a 1.8 tip. Use a 1.4. You get a smoother finish. I mean, you can look at this shine. It's almost like it was painted, and it hasn't dried yet and everything. But the texture of it is so much nicer. So yeah, and it sprayed amazing. Okay. Overdue update, folks. Fenders have been body worked and now epoxy primered. Then they'll get high build and sanded and then epoxy primered again, prepped. But you know, I gotta tell you, I love black epoxy primer. And the reason I do is because it will show you any imperfections that you have. Now, when you epoxy primer over body filler, you know, you'll see where the body filler was, but you know, it's not a bad thing. It's because it absorbs it different than the bare metal does. Yeah, so that's where we're at. The car has still got putty on it that has to be sanded down. That, you know, second time. You know, I kind of had the car up on jack stands because there's a spot underneath I have to finish using POR 15. So I figured while I had certain things going on, part of that too was because I replaced the amp meter with a special DC voltmeter. There's a guy who converts them, and you actually have a DC voltage meter. So again, I had to pull the gauge cluster and stuff and send it to him. Not the cluster, but the meter has a core, and then he sends it back to you. Well, at that point, when the gauge cluster is all taken apart, you can't really start the car. So that's when I said, well, do stuff that doesn't require me to pull the car in and out. All right, sounds like I'm rattling, but I'm happy with the progress, and we'll move on. Okay, after the epoxy primer, pinholes and imperfections were filled, and now it is in high build. And the high build came out freaking awesome. Yeah, check it out. Oops, stumbling on the cord. Yeah. It's interesting. I'm going to change the lighting in here because you can see it's bright red. The camera's picking it up a little different. Yeah, not an imperfection, not a bug, not a piece of dust. Woo-hoo. Which wouldn't matter because it gets sanded anyway, but you know, that inside the wheel well is nice. So, yeah, moving along. Okay.